Hi debaters! Welcome to video number 3. I'm excited about the next bit of our debate program. This is one of my favorite parts. But first, here's your task while watching the video. Write at least 5 to 10 new words in your vocabulary list. When you see or hear a new word, pause the video and add it to the list. Check what it means and write the meaning in English or Danish before you continue. Okay, here goes. Today we will learn about what comes after the constructive speech. Do you know? It's called cross-examination, or in simple English, the question round. In Danish, this is krydsforhøring. How does cross-examination work? Debates start with the affirmative side. As you know, the first speech of a debate is a constructive speech. The first affirmative speaker stands up and gives a constructive speech. But when the speech is finished, she remains standing because the negative team will ask questions about the speech. This is the cross-examination. So what kinds of questions can you ask in a cross-examination? You can ask for clarification, ask for further information, or expose a weak point. Here's the first question type. Was there a part of the speech that you didn't understand? You can ask the speaker for clarification. This means you are asking the speaker to explain something to you. You can ask about the meaning of a word or phrase. For example, what does hacking mean? Or, what do you mean by invasion of privacy? You can also ask the speaker to explain an argument to you. Can you explain why sharing photos is dangerous? For each type of question in this video, I have included some chunks. For example, what does this word mean? What do you mean by? Can you explain? You can use these chunks to help you make questions. You can find all of them on your task sheet. Here's another type of clarification question. If you didn't understand a longer part of the speech, you can ask the speaker to repeat. For example, what was the first support for your plan? Or, can you repeat the last 3 sentences? You can also ask about their evidence. What was the evidence for the risk of identity theft? Use for when it's something, a noun. And use that when it's a whole sentence or argument. What was the evidence that using social media builds self-confidence? Question type 2. You can also ask for further information. You can use any of the WH questions, our good old who, what, when, where, why, and how. A good example is asking about their sources. Who said that social media causes bullying? You can also ask whether the author is a reliable source. Is the author an expert? A doctor? A scientist? You can even ask how old their article is. If the source is from many years ago, you can say that it's not relevant. Maybe you have a newer, more recent article with different information. Sometimes it's helpful to ask why something is important. If the opposing team can't give a good reason, then you can easily attack this argument. For example, why is it important that children can share pictures on Instagram? This brings us to question type 3. The last type of question is actually an argument in question form. The purpose is to try to point out weak arguments. In other words, these questions are attacks from your side. Let's look at our last question as an example. Why is it important that children can share pictures on Instagram? Before you let your opponent answer, you can ask another question. For example, can't they send pictures by SMS or email instead? In this type of question, you can find words like instead that refer to the other side, your side, of the argument. Many of these questions also use negatives or sentences with the word not. Remember modality from the first video? You may see modal verbs used together with negatives such as can't, couldn't, and shouldn't. What about strangers? Shouldn't children only share pictures with people they know? These types of questions can be a bit tricky. To help you make one, try to think of an argument from your side, such as, sometimes people create fake accounts. Then turn it into a question. You can use a phrase like, what about? What about people who create fake accounts? Another good phrase to use is, isn't it true? Isn't it true that someone could steal your friend's photos and make a fake account? Let's try this out. Look at page 3 on your task sheet. You can find 3 examples of arguments. Try to make them into questions. Bring them to class tomorrow and we'll look at them together. That's all for today. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon.